what the peacock is signaling. Being a third world country, we are now amongst the biggest economies in the world.
I can hear my bank account screaming at me. So
What does a peacock, the Burj Khalifa,
Hmm.
and a Harvard degree have in common, Shrikant?
nothing. Absolutely. What can the Peacock, Harvard degree, and Burj Khalifa have nothing in common?
Okay, let me simplify it for you. Okay,
Please.
let me ask a more basic question.
Hmm.
If I told you that
Hmm.
you were allowed to take all the classes in Harvard for a Harvard MBA,
Hmm.
right? Just like regular students, all the classes, all the tests,
Hmm.
but you were not allowed, you will not get an actual Harvard degree, and you are not allowed to tell anybody that you studied at Harvard, right? What fraction of Harvard's fees would you be willing to pay for this privilege?
I originally wanted to say zero because I wouldn't pay for anything if I wasn't getting a Harvard degree. But then I thought maybe I'll pay only as much as my savings account allows me to stretch, which is still zero, but
Right. So what you are saying
Hmm.
is that a large part of Harvard's degree,
Hmm.
the value comes from being able to tell people that you have a Harvard degree.
Yeah.
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 So that is a concept called signaling. Okay. It comes from evolutionary psychology, and that's where the peacock comes in. Let's take the example of the peacock.
Acha.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, important thing
Hmm.
is evolution tells us that there are only three things important to all living beings.
Okay.
Okay. Finding food, protecting yourself from a predator or running away from a predator,
Hmm.
and finding a mate.
Right.
That's it.
I thought it was roti kapda makan, but the roti makan part stayed. The kapda went somewhere
Right.
else.
Yeah. Well, kapda you wear because you're trying to impress a mate. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Like I said, it went somewhere else.
Yeah. So why does a peacock have such a fancy tail? Like, it's really long, it is colorful, it's heavy.
I have heard that it's to attract a mate.
Okay,
Hmm.
maybe. Now, if I were a peacock's mate, right, I would look at the peacock and I would say, okay, that's a really heavy tail. When a cat is trying to eat you, you have to fly carrying that heavy weight behind you, and it dangles down, giving the cat much more time to catch you and eat you, right? Does that sound like a good idea?
It absolutely doesn't.
Right? But it still works.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
And the reason
What's
it works is simple. What the peacock is signaling is, look at me. I have this heavy tail, which makes it easier for a cat to catch me. And the bright colors on it, which make it easier for the cat to see me.
Yeah.
No camouflage.
Yeah.
And yet I am here alive. So imagine how strong I must be, how fast I must be, what my muscles must be like, that I am able to not be eaten by the cat in spite of carrying all this.
Never gave
So
it that much thought, did you? I didn't either.
I can afford to waste energy on this thing and still have enough left over to have a good living.
Yeah.
Right?
I can afford to spend money on a Harvard degree and continue to have a life without being burdened by loans and debts.
No, it's not so much about money, right? You can't get into Harvard just paying money.
Yeah.
What you're signaling there is that I got through their highly selective process, right? The actual learning doesn't matter. There are so many people who write Harvard on their LinkedIn because they went there for one weekend, right? And it still works.
Yeah, there have been several controversies on that. We'll not go there.
Right?
But hold on.
Yeah.
Where does Burj Khalifa come into the picture now?
Okay. So building a huge structure like the Burj Khalifa, tallest in the world, or building the Taj Mahal. We all know the numbers of how many people spent how many years building the Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
Right? So what signal does it send? I mean, if somebody wanted to live in a house, right? Just building a regular house is much cheaper than building a Taj Mahal.
And this is not even a house, it's a mausoleum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you are telling the whole world is, look at my empire. I can afford to waste money and effort on this thing. and still have an empire. So imagine how powerful I must be, right? Similarly, Burj Khalifa is telling the world that we are a rich nation. You should come here to do whatever you're spending and your businesses and so on, right?
Oh.
And to some extent, the Statue of Unity we are building is also India telling the world that we are done being a third world country. We are now amongst the biggest economies in the world.
Because we have the biggest statue in the world.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so India is basically trying to signal to the rest of the world that listen, bahut ho gaya. Look at us now, and look at us from a height now, because we have the tallest. Yeah, nice. So that explains the Burj Khalifa, Taj Mahal, Statue of Unity. That explains the Harvard degree. But let's talk more in terms of people like you and me.
Yeah.
How do I do a costly signal, for example?
So once you understand this concept and start looking around you, you will start noticing it in everything.
Okay.
I hire people, right? So while hiring, I ask candidates, send me a link to your GitHub profile. Okay. Now a GitHub profile, GitHub is a website where you put in code that you have written, over the last 3-4 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the idea is that I can go and see how many different projects you have done. Okay. And GitHub has this really nice a picture they put up on GitHub showing when were the various times in the last 1 year that you went and did something, added some new code, right? It's called the activity profile, I think.
Activity matrix profile,
Yeah.
whatever. If you go to anybody's, what, we'll put Naveen's GitHub profile in the description. Go check out his activity matrix.
So when I look at a GitHub profile and I see a lot of green dots where each dot represents one time you added code, and I see that over the last 1 year, over the last 4 years, then I know that you have been doing so much programming. Whereas a candidate who hasn't done that much programming, right, coasted through engineering, and then now suddenly all the submissions were done by just copying from somebody else. If I go and look at their GitHub profile, there's just going to be a bunch of green dots in the last 1 week after they saw my requirements and nothing else. Right? Because this is a costly signal.
Yeah.
They cannot reproduce it in 1 week. They have to have done it over 4 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You can't fool Naveen. No, you
so
can't.
In fact, the costly word here is important, right? A lot of people like to say things.
Okay.
You going around telling people, I am powerful, I am important, is not good enough, right?
Yeah.
If you want to say you are powerful, go and buy a billboard on the busiest intersection saying happy birthday to the local leader. Then you are powerful. That's a costly signal, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Politics is full of costly signals, by the way. Okay.
All kinds of politics, local, national, international.
Everything.
Yeah, I can see that now.
Even business is full of costly signals, right? Why do salespeople take customers to the fanciest restaurants and like spend like crazy?
Why does Elon Musk buy Twitter? Just.
But why is the customer center many companies will have, which has like extremely fancy building, the latest technology and really fancy stuff going on, right? It's just signaling to the customers that we are a successful company. We make a lot of money. So you should be buying from us, not those other guys who are not as successful.
Why do some people have golden thrones, as in commodes, thrones? Never mind.
All of that. See, conspicuous consumption, where you are showing the world how much you are spending, is basically costly signaling. You're signaling to the world that you are rich and implying that you are powerful. But this isn't just for people also. Even country level, this happens, right? International relations. We sanction Russia. I mean, Europe is suffering quite a lot because of the sanctions. But you are signaling to Russia that, you know what, we are willing to undergo this cost. We are willing to have a miserable winter just to make your life difficult because you broke one of our rules. right?
Yeah.
That's costly signaling. I mean, just telling Russia, oh, don't break our rules, don't break our rules. And then when they break your rule, then pass a resolution.
Yeah.
That's resolution is, talk is cheap.
Yeah.
But you actually are willing to tighten your own belt just to cut down Russia's sales of oil. That's a costly signal, right?
Did you think you would be learning about international diplomacy on a topic that started with peacocks and Burj Khalifa?
What do nuclear bombs have to do with peacocks, right? We will put a link on what nuclear strategy has to do with costly signals.
Nuclear strategy and costly signals. I do recall when you said that, I recall a specific Twitter exchange that happened between two heads of state a couple of years ago. I think that might be related somewhere, but I have a different question. My question is, how does it matter to me? Why should it matter to me?
So you have to understand that everything you do is a costly signal, right?
Okay.
When you buy an iPhone, that is some sort of a signal.
Yeah.
When you, Twitter has made a bit of a mess, as in the blue tick used to mean something. It was a signal of one sort, saying that this is an important, well-known person. And now if you can buy it for $8, suddenly the value of the signal has gone down, or maybe it has changed, that this is a person willing to spend $8 on this. That gives a different signal, right? So wearing suits is a signal. When people in the Bombay weather go around wearing a suit and a tie, that's a signal saying something.
Yeah.
But also, if somebody shows up in a very fancy office to a board meeting in jeans and a t-shirt, that's also a signal. That is saying, I made millions of dollars in software and I don't care for your rules. Right?
Yeah, or if you come in wearing the same gray sweatshirt or hoodie for every single day of your life in every single meeting, regardless of whether you're earning $10 or $10 billion, that's also a very costly signal.
In fact, there's a related concept called counter signaling. Okay. What that means is that the really, really high prestige people don't need to signal. In fact, they will not signal because they don't want to be mistaken for the kind of people who need to signal.
Plebs.
Okay. So, I mean, if you plot a curve, you will see that as value goes up, the signaling first goes up and then it falls, because later on, the most fancy ones like to keep things little chilled, right? That's where the most expensive cars do not have logos. Okay. I mean, you don't need that signaling. So, in fact, the right phrase to use there is that money talks, but wealth whispers. Right. So money does signaling, wealth does counter signaling, right?
Very, very smartly put. Money talks, wealth whispers.
Yeah. The smart kids in class are always like, teacher, teacher, teacher. The smartest kids don't need to impress the teacher.
Yeah.
Right. So
I can hear my bank account screaming at me. So very interesting points about signals and costly signals and counter signals there, which brings me to the question, what signals or costly signals or counter signals you are projecting? Tell us all about it in the comments below. My name is Shrikant, this is Naveen, and this was Future IQ. Thank you.